that a good position?
Yeah, and let's
You
just
just want to pin it to the top.
Yeah, pin this to the top of the laptop.
Okay, sweet.
Okay, amazing.
That should work.
Okay.
It's going.
Yeah.
Can you send me the? Oh
Yeah.
I'll just find it.
Or
I'll send the link on. Okay.
yeah.
Testing.
So,
Okay, we're live.
amazing.
Okay. Just a little bit. I want to get this like full. Oh well. Okay.
All right, hi everyone. Welcome back and welcome to the 2022 Student Government Debate. Sorry for the lag there, we were having some tech difficulties, but we are live now. So I'll just go over some quick things. First of all, my name is Sonika. I'm the editor-in-chief of the Daily Texan, and I'll be your moderator tonight. So in addition to providing a forum for students to learn more about the candidates, this debate also functions to inform the Daily Texan's endorsement editorial, which will be out in this Friday's paper, so you guys can keep an eye out for that. And so a little bit about the format tonight. We're going to first have you wide reps go. They'll each give a 1-minute statement about their platform. After that, we will jump into the executive alliance debate. All the executive alliances will give their opening statements, after which I will ask questions. We'll then take a short 5-minute break, and we'll return for audience questions, which will be from 7:30 to 7:45. And I'll say this again in case someone joins a little late. And the audience questions, will be taking questions both in person here and on the live stream. So I'll try to be monitoring the live stream then to field any questions that are coming in. So without further ado, let's begin. So a little bit about how timing will work on answers today. My lovely associate editor, Shruti, will be doing the timing for us. She will be holding up a yellow card at 30 seconds and at 15 seconds. Followed by a pink card at the end of time. So each of the UI reps have 1 minute to describe your platform, and we'll go ahead and start with you, George. Should we give them a thumbs up whenever you're ready?
Good evening. My name is George Brown, candidate for university-wide representative. I'm a junior from Tyler, Texas, majoring in government and minoring in business. I have sought to improve the lives of my peers throughout my time at UT as a Longhorn lobbyist and co-director of the State Relations Agency, as well as vice president of philanthropy for the Texas Field and Stream Club. I promise to exhibit the same caliber of leadership and compassion in my service as your university-wide representative. I am ready to deliver meaningful and decisive results for all Longhorns in the areas of campus safety, financial transparency, financial relief, infrastructure improvement, and transportation accessibility. I promise to work harder than any other candidate in the pursuit of these momentous goals, and I urge you to make your voice heard on February 28th and March 1st by joining me in my campaign to produce results for all our fellow Longhorns. Thank you for your time. Have a great night, and welcome.
Hey everyone, my name is Braxton Cannon. I'm a sophomore majoring in sustainability studies and mathematics, and I'm running for re-election to university-wide representative. I'm so excited to have the opportunity to continue working on student government accountability as well as sustainability throughout the next session. If re-elected, I will continue to hold administration accountable for advancing sustainability initiatives across campus. We have made great strides this year, including the beginning of the creation of the first UT carbon neutrality plan. And I'm super honored to be a student representative appointed to help write this plan. Second, as a current speaker of the legislative branch, I have personally seen the necessity to change the way in which representatives interact with the student body. So if re-elected, I will ensure that representatives recognize the importance of creating positive connections between SG and our fellow students. I look forward to planning town halls, outreach, one-on-one events, and more, and I am ultimately running to connect with the student body and lead with the passion for advocacy. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Gerald Holman. I'm a sociology, government, IRG triple major, and I'm so excited to be running for re-election. Over the past year, I have shown that I have the ability to serve and work with my fellow Longhorn students. I have tackled a wide variety of issues from affordable housing to COVID-19 safety precautions to SG accountability. And I'm excited to announce that I've delivered outcomes for all of us. And I'm also excited to say that I'm going to bring the same energy and passion back to the assembly next year. Some things I'm currently working on right now is a campus safety town hall event to connect students with administrations. We are the students who live in West Campus, on campus, Riverside, and our voices should be heard by administration in future planning discussions. Additionally, I am also committed to restructuring the student government budget. There is over $100,000 and it's being poorly managed, and that money should be delivered to the students' benefits. So if you have any questions or want to learn more about my accomplishments and initiatives, please feel free to check out my campaign page at Gerald or UI. Thank you.
Hi everybody, my name is Adrian Tristan and I'm running to be one of our next university-wide representatives. As one of the few students of color on the ballot, I run on behalf of every student who feels unseen, unheard, and unrepresented. My campaign is based off of the idea of putting people before policy, because though I acknowledge that legislation and policy is important, it isn't the only avenue for creating change on campus. As a UI rep, I plan on not only creating change systemically within the student government, but creating change socially and culturally across our campus as well. My greatest priorities will be working with student organizers and advocacy groups, leading outreach initiatives to try to gain more people of color and other marginalized folks to be more involved in student government, and advancing ideas that push for a more equitable UT. Thank you so much for your time, and if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to reach out at Adrian for UI on Instagram.
Hello all, my name is Helen Benedju. What starts here changes the world is a quote I'm sure most of you are familiar with. There are over 50,000 students on campus, with each coming from different walks of life, bringing their unique perspectives and experiences that emerge our campus. What changes this world, though, isn't just the student's individual value, but rather the accumulation of everyone's values bridged together by a strong community that actively prioritizes the well-being of all these groups. This community is currently threatened by students' lack of representation, access to resources, and a student government that hasn't been as transparent or altruistic as we hope. That is why I hope to highlight everyone's values through advocating for the representation of our diverse population and reforming the role student government plays for the student body by ensuring that your representatives bring effective, relevant, and tangible change across the 40 acres. If you want to learn more, be sure to check out my Instagram campaign page at Helen40Y. Thank you for listening.
Hi guys, my name is Mark Sojaman and I'm running for re-election to be a university-wide representative. I'm an economics and sociology double major with a certificate in conflict resolution and peace studies. Some of my involvements include being a liberal arts honors program, working as a TA at the Jester Mill Center, being a project manager in Canadian, and being a part of Root of Feminism on campus. I'm running for university-wide because I believe that I can use my past experience and involvement to get UT back on track and use student government to let students be students, focusing on legislation that actually concerns the student body and making an impact on it for the better. That's my platform will focus on three things: accessibility, food security, and advocacy. which will then include that I will make student government more known to student and actually touch them. Food security, I will just West Campus food desert and advocate for leaf credit to get to HEB, basic food necessities, and advocacy to let them advocate more. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much, you White Reps. If you guys would just exit to your right there, that would be great. And then SP candidates, please come up this way. All right, thank you guys. So we'll now move to you all's opening statements. You will each alliance will have 2 minutes to introduce themselves and present their platforms. We're going to present in ballot order. So Albert and Raymond, you guys are first. This should be whenever you're ready.
Okay, so you guys can hear us right here?
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna stand up for this one because it's a little bit weird from that. Okay. I'm Albert. This is my boy Ray, and we're on the stage quite frankly just because we give a shit. Now, there's 50,000 students here at UT Austin, each with different backgrounds, cultures, and experiences. What makes us here is we are Longhorns. And as Longhorns, we can all relate to these 3 different types of people. We are students, we are workers, and we are our future selves. Now, the students inside of us are the person who goes to class, does their homework, and does their best to achieve the degree in which they came here for. But the workers are also trying to just understand how it is to be an adult. They're trying to figure out how to manage their time, their money, their relationships. But we're all doing this because it's better for our future selves and the vision that we set. This is the first pillar of our platform. And this is what we call the student experience, in which we hope to improve.
And touching on me and Albert's personal student experience, we've been able to meet so many new people, as well as just overall have fun. And we owe a lot of this to our involvement in Greek life. And with our involvement in Greek life, we've been able to find a tremendous resource. And that resource comes with funds, comes with buildings, comes with participation. That if we could find a link between student organizations on campus and Greek life, we'll be able to advance both agendas mutually. However, there is a huge problem in Greek life, and that's sexual assault and hazing. However, me and Albert see absolutely no reason why the University of Texas, why UT Greek life shouldn't be the model in eliminating these problems.
We are a campus as one. We are all Longhorns. But the fact that we're sitting in an empty room here ourselves shows how much the university values its student government. That is a problem. We want to give power back to the student government, back to the students. We want to give power to people who want to better their future selves. That's why we give a shit.
Thank you guys. Okay, for this portion of the debate, I'm going to ask that pause be held until very end just for the sake of time. So now we have Edmund and Addison.
Hello everyone, my name is Edwin, and I am a first-year graduate student in the Community and Regional Planning Program in the School of Architecture. I'm also a 2020 graduate from the College of Liberal Arts. I got my Bachelor of Arts degree in Urban Studies, and I'm running with my campaign partner Addison, and we are running because we believe that Longhorns deserve new leadership that will bring a holistic perspective to student government and work with the university to bridge the gap between their expectations and the student experience. We're committed to ensuring that every student's voice is heard, and our platform consists of 3 pillars: people, planet, and prosperity. These 3 pillars will guide us and empower us to imagine UT Austin. We've both experienced numerous challenges as college students, and the adversity we face not only inspires us to campaign for student government, executive lines, but also envision solutions for some of the most common obstacles longboards face. Some of the most pressing issues that we've identified include the cost of attendance, lack of affordable housing, food insecurity, social diversity and inclusion, access to mental health resources, and sustainability and climate change resiliency on campus. We invite you to write us and share your perspectives if you feel something is missing and needs to be prioritized. Please visit our website, Edwin and Addison for utsg.com, and send us a message to have your voice heard. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Addison. Hi, I'm Addison Potomi. I am a first-year graduate student with the LBJ School of Public Affairs and the School of Architecture CRP program, which in layman's terms is just urban planning. I got my undergraduate here at UT, graduated in 2017, and I'm just really excited to see what I can give back to the university and to be a voice for my fellow students. Thank you.
All right, up next we have Leland and Isabel.
Hi everyone, great to see you all tonight. My name is Leland, and simply Isabel and I are running because in the past SG has not served anyone or helped students in any sort of real material way. And with the position of president and VP, they have like very huge access to admin across campus, and that has not been utilized in the past, as well as SG has a giant budget, and the majority of that does not go anywhere that benefits students in a material way. So we are simply running on 2 main things, but we have a bigger comprehensive platform. But the biggest things we want to advocate for are increased wages for students, just any worker on campus that's undergrads, graduate students, in the dining halls. Any worker should have a wage of at least $15. Austin is becoming increasingly unaffordable, and everyone deserves a livable wage. And then secondly, we want to take the SG budget and give that back to the students. We want to invest more in the UT Outpost, into the Student Emergency Fund, community meals on Speedway, and other things that will genuinely help students and not just have this bloated SG budget that doesn't go anywhere that actually helps students.
And hi everyone, I'm Isabel. I'm a public health major, and kind of what Leland has touched on is just that we want to really use SG's position to actively build larger coalitions on campus and uplift and not co-op student organizers. And simply put, we just want to make sure that the budget, the huge budget that SG gets, is materially benefiting students with things like food and financial burdens, and just making sure that we're pushing a comprehensive, progressive agenda.
Thank you, Isabel. And last but not least, we have Samantha and Thomas.
Hi, I'm Samantha Berg. I'm a 3rd-year finance major, and I'm from San Antonio, Texas.
Hi, my name is Tommy Bahalik. I'm also from San Antonio, and I'm a 3rd-year health and society major.
As someone who is part of the Jewish community that has a fight for inclusion here at this university, it is my responsibility to continue this fight, as well as fighting for other minority groups for their safety and acceptance as well. We care about inclusion and making sure every voice is heard. I want to be that person that amplifies your voice. I want to be that person you feel safe to talk to and trust.
Now wait, Sam, what exactly is UT community?
It means unifying social settings around campus. It means including everyone in the conversation. It means spreading positivity and focusing on fixing problems and not making more. It means making all students feel welcomed and safe at every inch of the 40 acres. It means working together to get more lights up in West Campus and breaking down mental health stigmas and creating a transportation system in campus that allows for accessibility and to all students.
Mental health rates are too high. There are too many commuter students at University of Texas that are late to classes because of failing metro system. There are too many student organizations that are not being present at student government and unrepresented. There are too many students that don't feel safe to walk in West Campus because there's no light. There are too many student government activities that are going under the table and not being brought up to transparency. So furthermore, we need to unite. We need to unite to create safety. We need to unite to protect students from sexual assault. We need to unite to bring transparency and bring about community building here. So going forward, overall, united means that you will always have something or someone that looks out for you.
Unity is that. UT for unity.
Okay, thank you all. So let's move forward. For the second half of the debate, Executive Alliance candidates may choose whether or not they want to respond to each general question. If they do wish to respond, they will indicate this just by raising their hand. The response order will follow the order in which the candidates raise their hand, and the Executive Alliance candidates will speak together. For all responses, a time limit of 1 minute will be enforced. So again, keep that tricky for that. If another Executive Alliance is mentioned by name, they will have the opportunity to provide a 3-second response for rebuttal. Okay, guys ready? Okay. My first question for you is, what do you think the biggest issue that this campus is facing, and how do you plan to address it? Yes, Albert.
I mean, the biggest issue that this campus is facing is that it doesn't have a strong support system in its student government. We're sitting in an empty room here. Earlier today, we came to an event that was the first event for all of these candidates in which almost no students showed up because there's nobody who is aware of student government. It's not that students don't care about student government, it's that they're simply not aware of what's happening. We ran a poll on our Instagram asking students themselves, if you were to actually go into Speedway and basically see what has student government done for you while you've been here. 90% of the participants that took place in that poll said that they couldn't answer that question. That is a major problem. We're sitting here on this stage talking, again, like to an empty room. It does not feel like the university actually values its students and actually puts a spotlight on student elections when there's 50,000 students that we need to represent. It's ridiculous, if I'm being honest, that this is the showing for it today.
Yes, Ashton.
With the rising cost of living in Austin, Edwin and I feel that affordability, especially affordable housing access, is the most pressing issue that students are facing currently. And we plan to address that by ideally working with the President Hartzell and with the city of Austin to create a long-term plan. And we plan on coordinating with the continuity committee, to hopefully put into motion a long-term plan to address that for future Longhorns and current Longhorns alike.
And we will also support the creation and establishment of a grant assistance program within student government to help students find with their financial hardships that they face. And we are also committed to fully supporting the 2015 master plan that UT developed and build more and expand on-campus housing.
Leland.
Well, I 100% agree. Affordability is the #1 issue. I would say, in addition to that, it's an administration that is unwilling consistently to listen to students, and student government has not done much to actually advocate for students through admin in the past. And Isabel and I both held on-campus jobs, just like many people here, and it's absolutely unacceptable that many campus positions, with the salary you get, you could barely afford a meal at night. I have so many friends and know so many people who face food insecurity, housing insecurity, and it's sad to go to UT Austin, which is supposed to be one of the best universities in the world. I do believe it is a great university, but we're failing our students consistently, and we need to advocate for workers, advocate for everyday students to get in those spaces and to really benefit their needs and to really improve their lives in a material way.
All right. There's no other responses. We'll move to the next question. So this past year, issues of accountability within SG were brought to light. What will you do to hold student government as a whole, and most importantly, yourselves accountable? Yes, Albert.
quite frankly, it's just being transparent. Transparent with who you are, transparent with what the position is, transparent with what the student government is actually doing. I mean, how many of us have actually received a text or an email or any update about what student government is actually doing? Being transparent is everything. That's why we're up here. We're not your ordinary candidates. You know, we're not the people that you're usually used to seeing, but we are who we are. You know, we like to have fun. We're here in college as well. We're students just like everybody else. And we're showing ourselves in our true colors. That's what this is up on stage. And so that's really what it comes down to, is being fully transparent, being fully honest, having an actual system in place to hear the students, getting a personal relationship with them, because this position is important. You're representing 50,000 students. You need to be able to have adequate communication channels in which you can get response and feedback, but then also where they can actually be able to see you for what you're doing in your position in which you are.
Anyone else? Isabel?
And while I do think that transparency is definitely very important to making sure that students are aware of what student government is doing, a specific example of how we plan to make sure transparency is happening under our administration is having an implementation tracker that's organized and easily accessible on social media to make sure that if students want to know what student government is doing, they can easily go to social media and find it. Things like itemized tuition bills, so they know that where their money is going to. And just making sure that there's constant open lines of communication. And so actually making sure to follow through on things like town hall, making sure that students aren't kind of left outside the door in terms of the decisions that are being made with the dollars that they're spending.
Thomas?
I'm gonna have to agree with Isabel. I agree that communication is one of the biggest things that needs to happen more in student government. I think that last year that was the biggest flaw, is they weren't very welcome to outside people, and that they weren't really reaching out to that diverse organization groups and those groups that are constantly not being represented in student gov. And I think as soon as we can reach out to those organizations and make sure that they know exactly what student gov is doing and what we can do in voices, we would be able to get a lot more done.
Thank you. One thing that we would really like to see happen is monthly newsletters. So we all get newsletters from our colleges at least once a month, if not once a week. So we would plan on posting town halls once a month and then an offset every 2 weeks later, setting up those monthly newsletters just to keep the students updated with what we are actually doing for them. We want to keep you involved, and we want to make sure that we're actually representing what you need.
And also on top of that, we recognize that students are incredibly busy, and instead of expecting students to come to you, we are willing to meet students where they're at and create activities and events that can help bridge the gap between the involvement on campus and student government.
All right, thank you all. Our next question is about a divisive issue here on campus, the Isaac, Texas. What are your thoughts on the controversy, and how do you plan to tackle the subject of our school song if in office? Yes, Isabel.
I think that's something we want to make sure to continue in our administration is continue towards abolishment, because the song is indeed racist and something that all students should be aware of the history, and so something else we would want to implement is a required seminar for first year students to really understand the racial history of UT Austin, because it is something that a lot of students on campus have to deal with when they walk around campus, and it's something that we all need to be aware of.
And adding on to Isabel, there's already a lot of groups who are out there doing that work, posting like educational events about the Isaac, Texas, and hosting those rallies to educate about the issue and move towards abolishment. And we want to support their efforts rather than just reinventing the wheel and getting them in those spaces where then those decisions are made and helping uplift those voices as much as possible.
Thank you. Anyone else who would like to answer? Yes.
I realize this is a very contentious issue, and I will always take a hot take on this as far as I don't believe that the Isaac, Texas should be abolished, simply because I feel like it is a learning experience for students. For students on campus, we know that the university is no stranger to racism, and just simply abolishing that specific song isn't going to solve the issue, and we need to come to terms with what our history entails and learn from that and work to try to do better. So while I definitely think that it's important to acknowledge the history behind the song, completely outright banning the tradition is, in my opinion, not the solution.
One thing I'd also like to note is that there is another underlying issue to the Eyes of Texas, and it's about funding for boosters. And that is why I think some people in the administration were worried about abolishing it, just for losing that funding. And we don't even know where that money is going, but we know it's not going to us.
So I kind of agree with both groups. I think a great solution to this is possibly rebranding and finding another song. I think we're too focused on abolishing something without the substitute of something else. And I think with alumni and spirit groups, once we get approved through them, then we can go forward and abolishing something that has a lot of potential here at the university.
I would like to add that in order to get this done, we need to fix this lack of cooperation and fixing all these problems. And to get anything done, we need to support all these numbers coming into place. And over the last couple years, there's been this lack of unity in certain groups, which has caused more problems to get fixed. So that is how we could fix the Eyes of Texas song.
All right, if there's no responses, we'll move forward. Sexual misconduct, unfortunately, also continues to be a pressing issue on this campus. How do you plan to support survivors? Yes.
So we plan to have a student-led agency to have more people come in and have a nice type of situation to report sexual assault, as well as having a student government-hosted forum for sexual assault survivors, to bring awareness to this issue.
Yes, absolutely.
I'd like to echo what Samantha said, where I think we do need a student-led organization, almost like a student face for the Title IX office. But I also advocate for, in addition to the sexual assault prevention training that incoming students must take, we need to dive deeper into the resources that are offered to survivors on campus. Some of those institutions can be very intimidating or difficult to access, and I think we need to be providing those students with the information at the beginning and let them know where the Title IX office is located and what services are actually available to help them and how to get in contact and actually use those resources. And I would also like to partner with the SSD and have them work more closely with the Student Emergency Services Office. I think there needs to be a little more liaison between them. And that's my plan. Thank you.
All right. Brandon, you can go next. Just a quick note. I just heard from our Texan team not to get in too close to the mic because I think there's a little bit of static coming up on the live stream. So we need to get a little bit of distance there. Brandon, go.
We definitely agree that sexual assault is a huge problem on campus. However, we believe that a lot of organizations focus on talking to you rather than facilitating the communications channel between students. Communication between peers is far more important than somebody who's an expert on the topic just lecturing. And we quite honestly believe that if we're able to facilitate a roundtable with survivors so we could get perspectives and we could get an understanding of the true problem, that's how we'll formulate a real attack on the problem. That's how we can eliminate sexual assault from the University of Texas.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to slightly disagree with the first answer, just because about the student-led agency, because there's already a lot of groups out there like the Interpersonal Violence Prevention Coalition that are doing that work. And I think by trying to make a new agency, that's more reinventing the wheel rather than just working and helping the groups that already exist. So Isabel and I, survivor justice is super important to us. As a survivor myself, we would want to help those groups and Voice Against Violence and many others who are already doing that and that educational work, and seeing how best we can support them rather than coming in and being like, oh, let's do this, let's do that, because it's an issue that requires so much attention. And
also with the effective board, making sure that fear of tolerance is actually being carried out. So if any allegations are to arise, that it should immediately be taken off the board, and there shouldn't be any kind of entertainment of keeping them on.
you like a 30-second rebuttal?
Yes.
Okay.
So I do appreciate Leland's response. However, I feel like we need a more organized way to fix this serious problem that's been happening for many, many years, even decades. So that's why we say that an agency could probably be the best way, as well as having blue lights around West Campus and everything that's important like that. We can't just have something that's not organized, to say.
Okay. Isabel?
With all due respect, the groups that are working on the ground with this issue have outlined very clear plans for implementation and how to make sure that it can be carried out. And they've done the research, and we should be working with them, not kind of create something that they're already doing and mimicking it. We should be making sure to highlight and uplift those voices.
All right, we'll go back here.
I just have one question. What research? Like, what research specifically are you talking about? Like, from what person? I'm just curious.
Leland, Isabel?
I'm not sure exactly what you mean by research, but we're talking about a lot of groups like IVP, BC, and Voice Against Violence, and those others who have done that research and are composed of survivors and advocates who are passionate about the issue, who have already done that research and have lived those experiences and are doing that work, and that's why we want to work with them and not try and reinvent the wheel.
They've outlined clear framework for implementation that is on their social media, so I can send that to you if you want to know more about the research.
Well, I'm gonna give you guys 30 seconds and we'll move forward.
So I'm very happy to hear that there is a lot of implications and a lot of planning and a lot of research already done. I think the one thing that student government does right now is funding, and making the agency, we're able to support these ideas, we're able to increase awareness, we're able to get what they want done. And by allowing that to happen, I think we're not trying to change anything what they've already done. We're trying to implement it and help them provide so they can keep pushing forward.
Okay, last 30 with Isabel, and then we have to move forward.
With all due respect, making more bureaucratic groups for it when there's already direct work being done instead of just giving them the money directly kind of just seems like a waste. And I don't think that's the most productive way to making sure that the budget is accurately being directly given to the organizers that are doing the work.
Okay, we're going to move forward here. If you guys want, you can kind of use this next question to address a little bit of what they said. But as a follow-up to the previous question, following the theme of accountability, and following the events of last semester, do you believe that it's student government's responsibility to hold organizations that perpetrate sexual violence accountable? And if so, how?
Can you repeat the question one more time?
Yes. Do you believe that it's student government's responsibility to hold organizations that perpetrate sexual violence accountable? If so, how? And I'm talking about organizations that have systemically had issues with sexual misconduct, like spirit groups, frats, things like that. But yes, we would.
Yeah, so I think it's absolutely student government's role to cut ties with those groups. And I will acknowledge my position as a member of a predominantly male service organization, which is Texas Blazers. And whether it's Blazers or any other male or just any org in general who has perpetrated these harms, they absolutely do need to be held accountable. And just like how Isabel kind of mentioned with zero tolerance within our executive board, that would also kind of apply because we are the voice of students, and voicing student, being the voice of students means, cutting ties with orgs that are perpetrating harm.
And if we're saying that we're backing survivors, something that is important, and not making sure there's a clear stance when we see that harm is being done, and if we're not doing that, then we're just a part of the problem.
I think that with student government, if they're overseeing that process, there's already organizations in place that have a much more organized and actual route to address those issues. That would be SFL and IFC. Now, student government can work in coordination with those, but for student government to oversee that process while also being accountable for all the other student organizations, I think would stretch thin. Now, again, just to reiterate, I think we can, definitely work alongside them because they have the resources, they have the experience, and they're the ones that are most tapped into those communities. But I don't think that student government should individually go out and look for problems, I guess, if it is not presented, if they don't have the adequate information to find them.
Yes, excellent.
It should not be the sole responsibility of student government to address these issues. Title IX office exists for that reason. So if you are a survivor, please, if you are comfortable, report yourself. However, as student leaders, we can do more to sanction groups overall. If Title IX is getting back to us that there's widespread confirmed sexual assault within a fraternity or a campus group, then I agree with Isabel that we should sever ties as formally as possible, and maybe even advise the president on ways to expel them from campus.
Isabel, you were mentioned, would you like 30 seconds or?
I think just for clarification, we never said that we're going to be the sole people that are going to be overseeing it. We're going to make sure that we're uplifting student organizers who are doing that work, implementing the framework, and making a clear stand when we see that harm has been done. I think that student government in the past, they weren't able to really make a clear stand when it came to sexual assault on the board, and as a result, it led to a lot of harm done to survivors. And I think that student government should make more of a clear stand in support of survivors and working with student organizers to make sure that harm doesn't continue.
Yes, Thomas.
I just want to clarify one thing Isabel said. Did you say you wanted to sever ties with pre-flight totally, or did you say that you wanted to sever ties or sever the ties due to like chapters having sexual assault cases?
I think that when harm is being perpetuated in FG, and it is something that should be stopped immediately. I didn't specifically say a group. I'm saying that in the past, given what was happening, there should have been zero tolerance, and it should have maybe been dropped from the board. And so I'm saying that if that were to happen again in student government, that we should be supporting and we should be making sure it's dealt with immediately.
Okay, yes, that's that. Thank you.
Okay. Now moving on to the issues that students have been facing in the Riverside community. So these students have been facing issues for years, especially in terms of connectivity to campus. What will you do to support students in Riverside if you are elected? Yes, Tom.
So as a past Riverside resident, they do have a very hard life with trying to get to class. Accessibility to the campus as a whole is a very big deal. I think that we need to introduce more platforms such as extending lifts past to a full day aspect instead of just at night, so that students have access throughout the day on like a rainy day or the metro system doesn't show up on time, where they can get to campus fast and efficient, and also make sure they make it to their classes that could be mandatory.
Isabel?
In our platform, we've also made sure to expand on the lift path and doing so in a way that making sure that it's pure credit and not something that's stipulated with things like time. Also exploring rollover credit, so if you don't use it, it can be passed on. Just to make sure that Riverside is being heard, and also there's a lot of organizers that are doing the work and kind of crowdsourcing and working with CapNAC to making sure they're uplifted and they're in these meetings with admin, making sure that they're a top priority.
We feel that, excuse me, another big problem in Riverside is safety, and quite honestly, we think it's ridiculous that UTPG has 12 police representatives, yet Riverside is not represented when it comes to the UT Police Department. So me and Albert are gonna go ahead and work with the UTPD to make sure that an area with so many UT students just like us are able to be protected by the police department that we pay for.
Yes.
Yeah, we are definitely committed to helping students in Riverside with their issues that they're facing in regards to transportation and any other kind of problems that may have arisen. I personally have heard straight from a resident this Friday at the College Student Commission meeting this past week, and they made very clear that this has been a consistent issue and has historically been ignored. And so we are committed to ensuring that a clear change will be implemented by ensuring that this is one of the first things that we address if elected president and vice president.
Yes. I would like to, okay, sorry. I would like to add that I feel like a strong Sherlock system could be very useful in this situation, and even providing those volunteers to go to the Riverside area. Say someone's phone is running down or some weird situation like that, they could just use Sherlock or press a button to have someone walk them over, especially middle of the night.
Okay, thank you. I see in this video we have some responses coming up. So what we'll do is, even if you aren't mentioned by name, if after everyone has gone, you have a response, you can do that once. So Leland and Isabel, do you guys have anything? 30 seconds also.
Yeah, it wasn't necessarily a response to anyone else. I was just kind of add on to what Isabel was saying earlier, is that we're also very plugged into the new Project Connect and the new transit lines. I recently became a community connector with them, so using positions like that to directly connect with students, because those rail lines will be going areas near Riverside, as well as other underserved parts of Austin, such as East Austin, and really utilizing our positions to make sure that those rail lines are put in equitably and in a fashion that doesn't do more harm than good, and is visionary for Austin.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to the next question. So marginalized communities at this university have too often been overlooked. What is your plan to center marginalized student voices on campus and actually affect the change they've been calling for? Yes,
I mean, it really comes down to partnerships and collaborations within the community and outside of in Austin as well. UT is diverse as hell. That's just who we are as a campus, and I'm proud of that. We are all proud of that. That's one of our unique factors. We need to be able to spread and share that more by pooling resources in different areas and different communities and being able to form a collaborative environment. Because that's why we came here, to meet different people, to have different experiences, to mesh with different cultures. If that was more present on campus, but even more so if it was backed stronger with the student government budget, with student government awareness, then we'd be able to do so. And diversity is one of the biggest things on this campus that we need to focus on and that we need to really feel, not just say it, but feel. We need to see it with our own eyes and interact with the students that are all around us as well. We need to create more opportunities there.
yes, Thomas.
So I think diversity is very important to have in student government. We actually have a thing called agencies that can actually have as many members and have members that are active. And I think by expanding these agencies out and making sure that these agencies are known to the student body, to every single organization at UT, every single group, we're able to reach a large amount of our diverse population, like Albert was saying. And I think that's one of our main platforms right now, is to make sure those agencies are up and running, because we have a lot right now through the last student government that are 2 to 3 people, and we do not want that to happen next year.
Yes.
One of the ways that we address this issue is by making sure that representation is ensured, and that we would do this by including representatives from these minority communities, such as representatives from the Multicultural Center and the Gender and Sexuality Center and any other organizations and centers on campus that have been historically unheard.
All right. Any others? Okay, we'll go to the next question then. Oh, sorry. Did you guys raise your hand?
Yeah, I was just gonna respond that is also one of our platform points as well, is the representatives from the Gender and Sexuality Center and the Multicultural Engagement Center. And actually, I'm a member of the Career and Training Research Report team, who has been formulating a giant report with data from LGBTQIA+ students on campus, and to ensure that that is implemented effectively Isabel and I want to work a lot with that, the team, to make sure that that work is uplifted and not co-opted. And so that's in addition to working with other marginalized groups and organizations around campus.
Thank you. Okay, so the next question, we're going to start a little bit to the COVID-19 pandemic. So the pandemic will most likely still be impacting the school once you take office. How will you lead students through this, and what policies will you look to implement to ease their burdens? Yes, Tom.
I think social connection is a really big thing when it comes out of COVID-19. I think there's a lack of social connection during the pandemic. And I think one of the main concerns that comes out from mental healthness, there has been an increasing mental healthness due to the pandemic and a lack of social interactions. So I think the best way is to implement something that will allow these students to still interact. And I'm not talking Zoom room. I'm not talking about something that's on the surface. I'm talking about maybe a committee or working with rec sports to make sure our students are getting social connections and not just implementing something that just is on very surface and just available or is just able to volunteer to do.
Isabel?
And from the inception of our campaign, something that we've really highlighted is just making sure to address the material needs of students, especially while the pandemic. Things like food and financial emergency really need to be addressed, and we have the ability to do that through the SG budget. So delegating a lot of money toward youth outposts, the student emergency fund, things like that, as well as what someone else about mental health and just making sure that there's increased staffing and funding for those groups, as well as things like students and services with disabilities, just making sure that a lot of things that happen outside the classroom, things like food, shelter, financial burdens and things like that are adequately being compensated through the budget.
Yes.
So I would like to add
This will be your
I would like to add that going on top of the outposts, that there should be just more school supplies provided to students who need it, as well as just having more community events, just because it's post-COVID, and just allowing those people's voices to be heard.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Heather.
We will fully support in advance any of the COVID-19 safety restrictions that will be agreed upon by the legislative student organizations on the University of campus. We believe that this is a group effort to get through this pandemic, and we believe that a consensus should be reached before any action should be taken, and we will work with everyone in the organizations to come to a consensus and solution.
Thank you. So my next question for you is that those who work with you are very important to the way that SG functions. How will you choose your executive board, and what will be your course of action if an ethical issue arises with any of your board members? Yes, Albert.
Well, first, by kind of choosing who else is going to be on the board, they have to be subject matter experts. They just have to. But the second thing is transparency is also a big thing. If you are consistently transparent from the very get-go, and when you reach that position, whoever of us up here is going to end up being president VP, they need to set the expectations of what students should expect from them, what information that is going to be present, how they're going to be getting that information, and that's where, like was previously mentioned, newsletters is really helpful. You opening up opt-in, text message channels, and things like that. You want to get students to know you for who you are, and that's where that transparency factor really, really plays a role. So if anything were to happen, that knowledge is already there, and they're following that whole entire process up forward. You have to be honest and you have to be transparent.
Isabel?
Again, I would just like to reiterate that if anything happens related to sexual assault, there will be zero tolerance, but in terms of picking the board, just making sure that it's a two-phase approach, so not only opening the application, but going to a lot of the underrepresented groups and making sure that they're aware that there are positions available. And since there are a lot of passionate people on the ground who are doing this work, making sure that they're able to get a platform and they're aware that there's an opportunity available for them to do so. In terms of Leland and I and stipends, we have already agreed that we're gonna donate our stipends, but if there's anyone on the board who have financial needs, then they can request to keep their stipend. And making sure that anyone who is helping in the progressive vision that Leland and I have, they aren't being hindered by any like financial burden, so.
Yes.
So we fully agree that transparency is the utmost important in choosing the executive board. We also believe that the people that serve on the executive board don't just work for the executives, but they also work for the students, and that means that the students should have a voice who gets to be on the board. And so, as part of our meeting, we are committed to ensuring that is met through, and we will be inviting students to vote on the elected board to decide who they believe is best qualified for these positions by hosting open town halls and making the whole entire process as transparent as possible.
Yes.
And I would just like to reiterate the implementation tracker that I mentioned earlier that will also apply to the effect board, and that'll be easily accessible for any student to be aware on the moves that we're making on our platform so that they are in a position to be able to give constructive feedback and to make sure that we're constantly being held accountable.
Yes, absolutely. 30 seconds.
I have a question for Albert, actually. How do you plan on finding experts, like policy experts on a campus full of inexperienced students?
Well, I'm coming from Moody Community College. If you're going to have a communications director, I would think that would be one of the first places that you would go. People who are already going towards that degree, they're implemented, they have structures around them as well, people in a network that they can utilize. And going off that topic, that's why we're here at the university, because the positions that we're going to be choosing to appoint, there's already students in that track to succeed and really kind of dive into that role how they would like to. But they are the subject matter experts, that's what I mean.
All right. Isabel, 30 seconds.
And I would like to answer this. I don't really think that just because being a grad student really gives you an advantage, just because we're students and we're still living this experience and we have knowledge and on what is going on and how we're experiencing it and how better to address it. And so I think that kind of like demeaning the fact that we're still undergraduate students shouldn't really put us at disadvantage because we're in these institutions and we're doing the work already and we should be open to those people.
How does it respond?
Isabel, I'm so sorry if I gave you the impression that I meant undergraduate students. I meant myself included. I'm an expert at nothing, and I remember being an undergrad and not feeling like an expert. And I just think it would be a little bit unrealistic to expect expertise from somebody who is still training like the rest of us are.
Albert, 30 seconds.
I have a question for actually, I guess whoever wants to take this up, but how do you guys
ask to a specific alliance, just for time's sake.
Okay, I'll touch that. How do you guys plan on actually picking your people? Are you guys doing it yourselves and are you guys opening this up so that way that it's almost like open-ended and you're allowing people to want to go into those positions?
As I said previously, I want to be a two-phase approach, and that's kind of how we're going to approach it. So not only opening the application, but making sure that underrepresented groups are aware that it's open and that there's an opportunity to really advocate on a larger scale. So it will be us providing an opportunity, but also making sure that we're doing targeted outreach.
Yes.
I would like to agree with them, but I also like to say that I think it's really important to have a big, medium, 70 people, set of eyes to sit on this process and make sure that the people that are coming in aren't just coming in for resume boosts for their community because they actually care about the community, they actually want to change things on campus.
Okay, thank you all. So aside from working with your executive board and fellow SG members, working with administration as president and vice president is crucial. How will you approach working with admin and at the same time ensure that you do not become an extension of administrators themselves? Tom.
I think having
as many members of UT student body with us, that being organizations that are currently advocating for the problem we're addressing with these admin directors or admin positions. I think that's really important because we want us not to be so much a connection, but also their voices to be heard. And by personalizing that experience and making sure that admins see these people being affected personally, they probably can get to them better with more emotion. And that's kind of exactly like how we would go about that.
The way we would approach our role and our positionality is always advocating for students first, and if need be, and most likely we would need to challenge admin, and that's why we see student government as more of this platform and where they we can build bigger coalitions with those groups that are already doing the work. Like for example, for increasing wages, we want to work with students for financial relief, underpaid UT, or already advocate for higher wage on campus. But the thing is, it's a lot of disjointed efforts, and student government has not supported in the past, and because they've been too close to admin, and that's kind of how we want to approach it, is to build these coalitions to force admins and put pressure on them from student body.
And just making sure that we're making change in the institution, but we're also making sure to uplift activism.
Edwin and I are here to serve your needs. We're here to represent you to President Hartzell and the rest of the administration, not the other way around. We want to be an extension of you, not an extension of the administration. So we would plan on meeting with advocacy groups and collecting as much information as we can from our students to then take to President Hartzell and the rest of the administration and work together for creative solutions, but certainly not parrot and reiterate what he's saying back to you, because that's not what we're here for. We're here to represent you and parrot what you say back to the president and find creative solutions through that avenue.
Well, the first step needs to be, we need to actually talk with administration so that we can be provided the actual resources as student government to reach students. The fact that there's 3,000, just a little bit over, students that voted in the last election shows exactly how much student government is reaching the general student body. So A, getting that platform, that foundation down needs to be a priority. B, it is working with coalitions, organizations, people in groups that have similar initiatives that can combine and work together to form a stronger message. But then the third thing is you as a president, as a VP, as an executive board, have to always keep an open dialogue with the students that you are serving. The moment that is cut off is the moment that you stop knowing, the moment that you stop caring. Every issue going forward that you do needs to be in alliance with the overall students, whether that's through coalitions, organization, or just one-on-one because you're hitting Speedway and you want to see what people have to say through their own mouths.
Samantha, 30 seconds. I would like to disagree with Leland about what he said earlier about increasing wages, just because I feel like by increasing wages, this is just coming from the finance side of me, it's gonna increase the tuition on campus, and if not, then it's just going to replace those people with robots, such as other universities around Texas have done that just because they can't afford like a 12 or 13 an hour to like 17 or 18 an hour.
All right, Lisa, 30 seconds.
Samantha, I'm not sure if you already saw this, but UT is already spending millions of dollars on a Liberty Institute that is just a conservative think tank. And why is that money going towards wages? We have the money, it's just what's being allocated. We want to put that money towards workers, towards students, and not towards things that are donor projects. So
that's supported by students. They've already been surveyed out in every single school, and they also support making sure that there's adequate wages for students.
I'm going to get back to that because you mentioned it again, so 30 seconds.
So I would just like to say that I'm not disagreeing with you totally about increasing wages. I'm just saying about what will happen. It's just what I've learned.
Okay, Albert.
I think the university needs to be understanding where the student is coming from. The fact that in-house paying $15 an hour minimum wage and that UT can't provide that is awful. That's embarrassing. UT Austin, Austin in the city itself said that the minimum living wage needed just to get by is $15 an hour. So the fact that the university can't provide that, with students also trying to just be adults, just trying to get through the day-to-day lives where they work, support their families, at a university, you should be paid so that you can pay what you need to pay. That's just the obvious thing.
And let's not get it twisted. UT Austin is a very wealthy institution. I don't think that there's a problem of whether the money is there to give to higher wages. I think it's just a matter of making sure that we're continuously advocating for making sure that it happens. And there are comparable institutions that have been losing the wage to at least $15. And UT Austin is one of those wealthy institutions that should be doing the same.
I totally agree. The budget is very messed up. I believe we have a lot of money not being allocated to employees here at UT as well. If you didn't know, our custodian staff actually only gets paid $12.50, and the average student gets paid $13.50 right now. I'm pretty sure, Leland, on your policy, it said it's $17 minimum wage, and so that's a bare minimum. We're talking a range 17 through 20, and so I think what my candidate partner is going to say is we should reevaluate the extremes of your policy and make sure that we can lower. 15 sounds great, but that is not where we're trying to come from, like saying that students should get paid more.
The only thing unrealistic is how unaffordable it is to go to UT Austin. There's not $15 is the bare minimum. The reason why we're at 15 is because when we go to Philippines, we want to be able to negotiate downward if need be. $15 is what it should have already been. That's the bare minimum. Cost of living is increasing every day. Tuition is increasing every day. It's not feasible. The research backs it, so you're wrong.
I'm just gonna point out the jobs. We are in downtown, the #1 job market in America. That's for Wall Street Journal. So if you are taking a student job, you are a contributor to campus. You should be able to be paid as a contributor to campus. Otherwise, what is stopping other students from going to NAT to get more wages and to actually be able to fund themselves correctly? If you're here at UT, this campus needs to be and view you as an asset to the campus, because that's what we are as students. We carry the brand where we are, but we also need to be able to reflect and collaborate with the outside community as well, present more opportunities to our students.
Yes, I just want to make clear that me and my campaign are in support of increasing wages on campus. I myself have worked every year. I've been at UT and I know what the struggle is like to have to balance both work and school, and so I really support everything that's been said pretty much as far as the need to increase wages. And we firmly believe that this is a make or break thing for the university, especially at this time right now with the cost of living exponentially increasing in the city. And we also believe that the university has a lot more power than we may think, and we will work to make a difference.
All right, we're going to move to our last two questions here, running up on time. So first of all, following the controversy of this year, there have been calls to both reform SG and to abolish the SG executive branch altogether. Why do you think the roles of president and vice president are necessary? And will you make any structural changes to the way SG is run? Albert.
First, I just want to address the abolish student government and do us no favors whatsoever. That just can't happen. We need to have students who value other students, and especially if they're going to be sitting in those titles. But how you change and how you reform SG is by being transparent and by opening up communication channels where you can be in contact with students all the time. Again, I'm just going to keep pointing this out. This room is empty. We are running to represent 50,000 plus students, and this room is empty. When I checked the live, when it first started, it had 47 people watching. Nobody's eyes are on this, and we're running to represent them. That is the first thing that we need to fix right there. And that's working with administration, making it known, working with organizations, making it known, being in constant communication and dialogue with students on a personal, individual level, and as a whole. You want to be able to, we're all here because we have a holistic approach of what the student is going through. We need to start with actual awareness of what student government does in the first place.
Thank you. Leland?
Even though we're running for these roles, I don't think they're inherently necessary. The reality is they are here, and that's why we want to use those positions and the positionality to, again, uplift and build coalitions with those who are already doing the work, in addition to taking the giant SG budget and giving it back to students directly. Because the best way you can help people is by fulfilling their material needs and not just having a bloated SG budget that just is self-serving and doesn't actually help anyone.
And if you look at our policy paper, we've outlined in detail how we plan to implement reform. You will see that we're not just going to go in and let it just be the status quo. We have changes, including our main one being the budget, to make sure that FG, the way it operates, changes to make sure that it's directly helping students and not just something that's just a bureaucratic institution.
Albert, 30 seconds.
So you said that President and Vice President are not necessary. What is necessary then? Why are those not necessary? Because those are the heads of student government. You are leading the student population. How is that not necessary?
When I said not necessary, I was saying is then there are people who are doing the work, and oftentimes these roles can be very self-serving, and that's why that positionality needs to be used to give other groups and work with those other groups to give them access to admin, help them force admin's hand, and then additionally giving the power back to students and not self-serving interests.
So you would keep the role of President and Vice President?
We're here to help students, and if we are elected, that is what our main priority is.
And just the way that it's operated previously, just haven't been doing that, and it's just been a lot of getting caught up in admin and just letting students know what admin has decided as opposed to forcing admin's hand. And so I think that in that sense, if we can reform FG to make sure that the budget is directly going towards students and we're forcing the admin's hand, not just actually going with what they're saying, I think that it has purpose.
Sure, but if there's no president and vice president, how are these students supposed to actually know who to listen to if they don't have a point person to do so?
Okay, Albert, we need to be giving you the time before you speak, so please hold off before you do that. Leland, would you like to respond to that 30 seconds?
By listening to the groups who are, sorry, I got really close. By listening to the groups who are arguing the work, ultimately these are just titles, but there is a lot of power that comes with being in them. And that's why if we are to occupy the roles, and we would want to uplift the groups that are doing the work, who are already taking on admin and forcing their hand on so many different issues, who are researching, advocating, educating about these issues, we're simply just there to help them and help students and give the power of budget, the positionality positions back to students.
Okay, we're moving on. Yes.
So while there is precedent for the student government abolishing at UT, like started in the 80s and 70s, but I firmly stand that this is not something we should do because I believe that representation is incredibly important, especially for our constituency, because we are often unheard and overlooked. And I also think that it's incredibly important on a broader scale, such as at the city level. I currently serving to representing you on the City of Austin's College Student Commission, and I think I'm uniquely positioned to help bridge the gap between the broader issues that are being experienced not just on campus but off campus, and we'll work to make sure that that solutions are created.
Thank you. Okay, well then we'll move forward to the last question of the night from me. So many students are disillusioned with SG, and rightly so. What makes you representative of the student population, and why should students put their faith in you? Albert.
I'm gonna say all the time, we give a shit. That's why we're here on the stage. We are who we are. This is who we are. We want to have fun. We want to know what we want to be able to carry that out for the student. But at the same time, students should look at us because we understand that this is a segue to get to your career. At being in the #1 job market in America, you need to be able to have a system that propels you to exceed in those job markets. We are here because this is UT Austin. We are all Texas Longhorns here. We're one of the most prestigious public schools nationwide, and honestly, the fact that that we haven't been able to really show that within the students, I think administration talks really loud, but the students have a louder voice, and it's just not shown enough. That's the problem.
Leland?
And seeing a lot of the dissent about student government, I was part of the people that was giving criticism just because the way that it was run and the way that the events transpired last semester were not acceptable. but I think that moving forward and making sure that we're actively looking in the past and have plans to make sure that what happened in the past doesn't happen again, and that we're constantly being held accountable, and we have policies in place to make sure that those happen is really important.
Yes, Thomas. Oh, you can give 30 seconds afterwards. Thomas.
So I think in this case, transparency with student government would be very beneficial to the program. I think this is because a lot of students do not know about student government. They don't know about the application process. They don't know about positions. They don't know when assembly is. They also don't, when they do show up, they're often shut down by members that have a negative outlook on people coming in from different organizations. And so by creating more transparency and being more positive to student government and trying to get more people involved is the first step if you want to make any change at all here at the university.
Building off what Isabel was saying, we're gonna work as best as possible to implement a lot of the policies we have on our platform. Ultimately, we really just want to work with groups who have already been doing that work with other activists and organizers, and being constantly aware and reflecting. And Isabel and I think at least, are people who are always willing, open to criticism.
Even since the inception of our campaign, if you look at our policy paper, we added red text things that we've added just to make sure we're constantly having a pulse on the community.
Okay, thank you. Evan.
Me and I believe that we are really well positioned to help the university because of our background and previous experience working on and off campus. So we have continuously shown through multiple ways our commitment to making the university a better place. And we will work with the administration and other student organizations to make sure that the priorities of the student population are met. And as
Okay, thank you all so much. That concludes the portion with me. We'll go ahead and take a 5-minute break now. In the meantime, everyone watching the live stream, if you have a question, please put it in the chat and preface it with the words Q&A so I know that it's for this part of the debate. Meanwhile, in person, if anyone wants to ask questions, you can also line up the mics. And in terms of the questions, you can direct them towards a single alliance, or you can direct them towards everyone, and I'll probably have 1 or 2 people respond. So we'll be back at 7:32. It's okay. Thank you for the time. Why don't get video Q&A or do you put it too late? No, I think wait, is it the live stream for them? The live stream for them. Yeah, so it's the live stream. Okay, amazing. Yeah. Okay, so we'll still be today, yeah. Foot bait. Yeah. Okay. All right, candidates can start making their way back to the stage. Okay, if you could start making your way back, that would be great. Thank you guys. Okay, so we'll now begin our Q&A portion. The way this will work is that if a specific alliance has mentioned a question, they will have 1 minute to respond, and if anyone wants to add on, they will have 30 seconds. Otherwise, if the question is aimed at all alliances, same thing with my questions, you all will have a minute to respond if you so choose. Okay, we'll start with that left mic over there, and then move over to this one, and just go back and forth.
Hi y'all, my name is Mackenzie Smith. I'm a senior. I am the former advocacy director on SG Executive Board. I resigned last semester. I am also on the Interpersonal Violence Prevention Coalition and on my campus. And so I have a question for Samantha and Tommy, and also for Edwin and Addison. In terms of y'all creating a student-led sexual assault reporting agency, are you aware of mandatory reporting guidelines, and that any student on that agency would be forced to report, and therefore would not be a safe space for survivors coming to that agency to support? Also, how do you think that student government would be made a safe space for survivors after they completely tarnished their reputation in the eyes of survivors and made it clear that they did not prioritize the needs of survivors during the past year?
Okay, Addison, 1 minute.
I can't speak too much to what happened last year. What I can say is I don't really advocate for a student agency. I just want one face, and not necessarily. I am aware of Title IX mandatory reporting. I actually had a campus job last semester, so I was a mandatory reporter. I'm saying I'm advocating for a student volunteer to be the face of the Title IX office to make it more approachable. And as student government leaders, we want to help rebuild that trust with survivors and not disparage them, but instead support them and bolster them. And Edwin, do you have anything else? Yeah, so I want to make it clear that we're not advocating for an entire agency. We just want a volunteer, like a student face that can be a friendly person to greet people at the Title IX office and kind of be a peer. Thank you.
Samantha.
A second.
Hello, okay. So, one way this could be done is through a sexual assault awareness week. This doesn't have to be hosted by SG, it could be hosted, with other organizations around campus, such as women-led organizations, there's women in business and, stuff like that.
Honestly, the agency part, the real big thing behind that is having this group that can possibly help with pushing some of this stuff these other organizations are doing. We could have someone that's a part of the agency that does uphold a bigger face, that is in charge of reporting and not having these students have within the agency have a safer place where they can communicate and where knowing their rights when they walk in before is will be very important.
Isabel, 30 seconds.
With all due respect, I feel like working to make sure that we're implementing restorative justice in institutions is a lot more valuable and will do a lot more help for survivors than implementing a week.
Can I clarify my question since I didn't get an answer? From Samantha, as far as the week, how would that, what would that mean for mandatory reporting within this agency that you're advocating that we create? And also, how would that make student government more approachable and more safe for survivors? Because as a survivor myself, going through that entire thing last semester and being in a unique position that because it was so, there was a lot of kind of fanfare around it, that so many survivors reached out to me as well and explained that they didn't feel safe and comfortable in student government. How would that make them feel safe or comfortable in student government?
Yeah, so first I want to apologize for not answering your question clearly, but I do think that we could make this just a friendlier and safer space by making various organizations on campus and SG a safer space. So we don't have to make it like a sexual assault awareness week. I just said that because the awareness month is in April, and I feel that this is something that campuses should already have.
Okay. We'll go over here.
Hi everybody. My name is Adrian Hunter and I am a senior. My question is, a lot of the platform points started by every single one of these campaigns bring me memories of platforms full of empty promises that campaigns make every single year. Some of these include vague promises of accessibility and communication, adding more lighting, improving parking, and transparency, but lack substance. These platform points have been made every single year for decades. There's records of it. I suggest you all review them. That being said, my question for you all is what makes you all different and special in having the ability to successfully pursue these very common promises, unlike every other candidate in all these past years? What will you specifically and tangibly do differently to make sure these ideas are actually completed, other than abstract promises of working harder?
Yes, Albert.
I'm really glad that you said that, by the way, because that perfectly describes why we're up here today. We need somebody there who likes to have fun like Governor Newsom, who likes to go out to Speedway and talk with people on a person-to-person level. We need people who, I agree with you. There is a lot of empty promises behind in previous elections, and that's usually kind of like the status quo, it seems like. But what we do is what we're doing in our campaign already is already shown that. So, for example, Thursday, February 24th, by the way, we want to be able to utilize resources on campus, and that happens to be in Greek life because we are in Greek life. But bringing over student organizations, so it's an LGBTQI plus event in Greek life, because that is a community that's very important to us. We want to bring in student organizations, student ready and just aware. That is a big part of diversity. That's just a big part of collaboration and partnerships, and that's what we're about. That's our first pillar, improving the student experience and empowering students right there.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
Thank you for your question. Again, it's a very fair question, and I definitely agree with the notion that you brought up as far as what we will do specifically. And what I can just say is that as given our background as urban planners, is saying that we know a little bit of everything. And I'm not saying that to bolster my ego. I'm saying that because I think it's really important for the president and vice president to be able to collaborate interdisciplinary and create solutions that are able to address a multifaceted problem. And I think we particularly are very well aware of these issues because of our background and our service on already addressing these issues. For example, on my time at College Commission, we worked to and have successfully passed a food security grant that has been administered by the city of Austin to not only UT but to other campuses in Austin. And so that's just one of the things that we have done so far to make a difference. And thank you for your question.
Hi, Adrian. Thank you so much. I think the biggest thing, while any policy could ultimately be a false promise, I think Isabel and I have worked in a lot of different spaces already across campus, like with Students for Financial Relief. I helped them recently distribute a lot of funds during the recent winter storm, and a lot of other different advocacy work and working with those groups. And ultimately, that is how you make sustainable change, is by working with the groups who are already doing it. And that is a promise that we will always be working with, not against them, and being open to any feedback, whether it's constructive, non-constructive, or just anything is sent to us, and always holding ourselves accountable.
Yes.
So our campaign is about getting things done. I think false promises have been said in the past because we cannot get anything done. This is a fact because student government is not fulfilling a community spirit. We're not reaching out to multiple groups in the university. I feel that we need to use something like our agencies to expand and reach out to different programs, different people, and get everybody's voices, because I don't think the university is going to listen to us unless we have enough people to speak, enough people to rally the herd and get this promotion going up in all of Boston.
Okay, 30 seconds.
I think while everybody made good points, I think there's something that's very, very lacking in this, in that the students tell us where they want to go. The students, that's where our third pillar comes in, is empowering students. Because if you give that everyday student to actually be themselves, show them for who they are, they will lead you to what needs to happen because they feel comfortable doing so. That is the biggest part. That's what Austin is. That's what UT Austin is, and that's who we are as Longhorns. We need to give power back to students so they can show us what they want.
Thank you. Okay, we have a question in the live stream. Someone said, I know many people hesitate to report their sexual misconduct, sexual assault to Title IX because of the bureaucracy and the fact that many times it's testimony based and assailants get off free. How would you address this issue at UT?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think the biggest thing that we would be able to try and do in these roles is advocating for more funding for more confidential advocates, so people have a space if they would like to, not go through the Title IX process, but still have someone to talk to who, just having a support system that they won't be wrapped up in a bureaucratic process, that they have their reports. That's support, and so advocating for more funding for more confidential advocates.
Who else? Yes, Evan.
Yeah, I will say this is a very, very sensitive issue, and I believe that it should be definitely dealt with by professionals, and if possible, I think the university should look into outreaching to the professors that can have specialties and knowledge in this kind of field, and work to really develop solutions in-house instead of having to go outside the campus for these solutions.
Another idea that we have is to partner with the School of Social Work. And they have professors, graduate students, and undergrads who would be good allies, good avenues for support and that would also allow them to get experience, but it would provide a safe place for students to become familiar with maybe the Title IX process and to be able to have access to immediate tools to allow healing.
Thank you. So for the sake of time, and because we have a few more questions to get through, that I want to get through, I'm thinking what we'll do is if the question is asked to all four of you, you'll each have a minute. Past that, I'm not going to give any more follow-ups. However, if the question is asked just to one person, and you have a follow-up, you'll get 30 seconds to do so. That sound good? Okay. Amanda, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Amanda Garcia. I use she, her pronouns, and I have been serving as a university-wide representative this past year with the student government, so I'm unfortunately very aware of the issues that have been going through, and I'm also an organizer for survivor justice and interpersonal violence prevention. And quite frankly, a lot of the issues tackled by these campaigns are not fun. They're not a cute little slogan that you can campaign around. These are issues that are faced by survivors, by marginalized groups, by students who are historically undermined by these institutions that you are looking to serve in. So my question to the candidates today are, I can confidently say that your platform points on many of these issues are weak and unbased. Having organized within this community of survivors, many